The nights bubbled with the synchronous sound of Afrobeat music, blended with several random but steadily paced conversations. The only major disruption to this pleasant cacophony of sounds was the sound of everyone in Kemi's house singing Kemi a birthday song. It was one of those rare nights where everyone came together and feelings like jealousy, hatred, and anger ceased to exist. Just as the celebration reached its heights, there was a knock on the door. Kemi, the lady who lost her virginity to 7 men. The Daniels household was always filled with laughter, joy, and a scintillating aroma of freshly fried akara that made the mouth of the neighbors and their kids water. The Daniels family were loved by almost everyone they came across, and their child, Ola Kemi, fondly called Kemi for short, was like a ray of sunshine in any room she entered. Her radiant smile was captivating, and her infectious energy made her a delight to be around. Kemi always received praise for inheriting the beauty of her mother and the disarming smile of her father. Kemi would always read to her father and mother at night before going to bed, and was typically the first person to wake up, beating her mother to the kitchen. Life was good for the Daniels, and they were the envy of everyone in their neighborhood. Even though Kemi was born in the city of Lagos, her mother always said she had the respectable attitude of a child born in a modest town or village. The love showered on Kemi manifested in every area of her life, as she was as kind as she was brilliant. Kemi's father and mother made sure that she never lacked for anything, but they never failed to remind her of the importance of showing empathy towards the needs of others. The life of the 12-year-old Kemi took a drastic turn on one lazy afternoon. Kemi was seated in the backseat of her father's car, with her father driving and her mother laughing with him in the passenger seat beside him. The inciting music by Fela rang gently through the speakers. Kemi didn't see what happened, but in an instant, she heard screeching tires and the momentary thud of metal against metal before she blacked out. By the time Kemi regained consciousness, the vibrant fabric of her life, woven and held together by her parents' laughter, reassurance, and love, had unraveled. All that was left now was the aftermath of an accident that left both her parents and the driver of the other vehicle dead. A motor accident that no one saw coming had snatched her parents away from her, leaving her unprotected, unloved, and at the mercy of the vultures, which consisted of her extended family. After all, Kemi was only 12 years old at the time. Her aunt, her mother's elder sister, took Kemi in and became her willing anchor and foster mother. Auntie Bisi and her husband were just as kind as Kemi's mother, and she tried her best to give Kemi everything that her parents would have given her. However, the children of Auntie Kemi, Kemi's cousins, did not feel the same level of compassion toward Kemi. Instead, the two elderly children, Tinuke and Rachel, harbored a deep hatred toward Kemi. This resounding hatred stemmed from jealousy. They were jealous of how everyone seemed to love Kemi instantly, but they felt like they did not receive the same level of affection from everyone else, including their mother and father. The youngest of Auntie Bisi's children, Bumi, was the only one of her 3 children who loved Kemi and treated Kemi with love and respect. At first, Kemi's residency with her aunt was smooth sailing, even though she was acutely aware of the hatred and dislike that she faced from her disgruntled cousins. However, the love shown by Auntie Kemi and Bumi was enough to keep Kemi's sanity intact and help her through the rough patches she experienced. The situation remained manageable, and while the hatred from her 2 older cousins remained palpable, Kemi didn't let it affect her radiance. However, the wind of tragedy blew in the direction of Kemi's family once again, on Kemi's 18th birthday. The nights bubbled with the synchronous sound of Afrobeat music, blended with several random but steadily paced conversations. The only major disruption to this pleasant cacophony of sounds was the sound of everyone in Kemi's house singing Kemi a birthday song. It was one of those rare nights where everyone came together and feelings like jealousy, hatred, and anger ceased to exist. Just as the celebration reached its height, there was a knock on the door, followed by a sudden barge through the door. 7 men carrying heavy artilleries and machetes walked majestically into the living room where Kemi and her foster family all stood, taken aback by the reality of their situation. The unwelcomed visitors asked everyone to lie on their faces, which they did, and they started ransacking the house for things to steal. However, one of the armed robbers looked in Kemi's direction and asked her to follow him upstairs. Kemi's uncle, Auntie Bisi's husband, immediately objected and asked that he be taken upstairs instead. This made the leader of the group angry, and a bullet to the head of Kemi's uncle was what followed with this explosive anger. The shock of seeing her husband being shot caused Auntie Bisi to charge at the armed robber, and in response, another one of the armed robbers shot Auntie Bisi too. On this bubbling night, when everything seemed just right and the air was palpable with excitement, Kemi lost her foster parents and her cousins lost their parents too. Kemi was taken upstairs by the 7 armed robbers, and all 7 of them desecrated her in turns. It was a night that Kemi wished ended abruptly. She prayed for the swift hand of the Grim Reaper, but it never came. It was indeed a dark night for Kemi and her foster family. It was on this night that Kemi lost her cherished chastity to 7 heavily armed men hidden behind the safety of their black masks. One of the men who defiled her had a prominent scar that ran the entire length of his back, and Kemi saw this when he put his shirt back on. After this dark and life-changing night, Kemi never remained the same. The will to live was a distant memory, and her radiant smile she was known for disappeared, leaving behind an omnipresent blank expression. She was a shell of what she used to be. To make things worse, our 2 older cousins became her guardians, and the anger of their loss and hatred for Kemi made things worse. They maltreated Kemi to the point where she tried taking her own life multiple times, but she couldn't bring herself to end it, especially since she still had a younger cousin who loved her very much. However, the youngest of her cousins gained admission into the university. The gloom and hopelessness of her situation hit her like a train wreck and made her reality clear as day. The older cousins, Tinuke and Rachel, intensified their maltreatment and made her perform odd tasks like washing several bags filled with dirty laundry or sending her out to purchase items in the rain. Kemi grew lean and her expressions became less hopeful. Kemi was a ghost of her former self, as she didn't have the will to live. One day, Kemi was being punished by one of her older cousins when she snapped. She shoved her cousin to the side and ran away into the streets, never to return to that house again. Since Kemi had nowhere to turn to and no other family member that she could count on to take her in without maltreating her, she had no choice but to live on the streets. Life on the streets was no different from her life living with her cousins either. For the first few days, she scavenged around for food to eat, digging into dustbins and resorting to begging for food and money to survive. One day, on a scorching afternoon, the sun rose so high up in the heavens that the clouds gave way. Kemi wandered aimlessly on the streets of Lagos in hopes of finding food or any job that could help her earn for lunch or dinner. Her stomach rumbled and turned as she scouted the streets, barely able to walk in a straight line. Kemi walked up to a man standing on the pavement, dressed in a simple shirt and trousers, accompanied by an expensive-looking shoe. Kemi approached with trained caution, a result of the many rejections she had received over the few days she had been on the streets. The man flashed her a gentle smile as she approached. "Please, sir, can I help you carry your load to your house? I can also help you clean your house if you want." Kemi stood with a pleading stare in her fairly tattered clothes as she said this. However, even her God-forsaken situation could not hide her beauty. Underneath the sweat-reading clothes and dust-pillaged face, a radiant glow shined through. The man looked at her for a few seconds before saying, "Wow, you speak very good English. What are you doing on the streets?" He seemed genuinely impressed with Kemi. The question, though simple, felt heavy. Maybe too heavy for Kemi to bear, as she immediately broke down, weeping heavily. The weight of her disparaging situation became lighter with every tear. Amidst her tears and sobs, Kemi narrated her ordeal to the strange man she met on the streets. The man introduced himself as Tunde and said he could help her. After a few moments of initial hesitation from Kemi, she finally followed him home. Tunde gave Kemi food, clothes, and a place to sleep in his home. Tunde didn't have any wife or kids, even though he was well into his late 30s. The first 2 months of Kemi's stay with Uncle Tunde, as she fondly called him, was blissful. She never lacked for food or money. It felt like the paradise she had always wished for. Kemi's beauty, a colorful silhouette that blossomed like red roses in a field of thorns, continued to amaze everyone around her. She was desired by both the young and the old. Uncle Tunde was always nice to her and never let her lack anything. Kemi felt indebted to Uncle Tunde, and she repaid him by doing tasks around the house that needed to be done. However, her good luck never seemed to last long, as her quiet, harmonious life quickly took a dark turn. One Friday night, Uncle Tunde came back very drunk after an eventful night of partying and went straight into Kemi's room. In the dead silence of the night, Kemi's screams broke the air as Uncle Tunde forced himself on her. A new home that once brought her solace now offered nothing but immeasurable pain. In the morning after the incident, Uncle Tunde apologized to Kemi. But the pain of losing her body and her trust for her benefactor lingered in the depths of her heart. For a week after the heart-wrenching incident happened, Uncle Tunde continued to apologize. But it was too much for Kemi to take. Kemi told Uncle Tunde that she had forgiven him but couldn't live with him in good faith anymore, knowing that he knew her story and still hurt her the way others did in the past. Uncle Tunde gave her a huge sum of money and bid her farewell on a cloudy Monday morning. Kemi thanked him for the kindness he had shown her in the past before they parted ways. Like a traveler reunited with a treacherous path, Kemi was back on the streets where it all began. But this time, she was older and better equipped to handle what came next. She knew the world outside was a menacing labyrinth. But even as rain fell on her weary head and shoulders, Kemi stumbled along deserted streets with fear as her unwavering companion. Eventually, dawn arrived, and it found Kemi still slugging through the waking streets of Lagos. The sky now held streaks of orange and permeated the streets with hope. As exhaustion got the better of her, her legs retired and forced her to take refuge under a sprawling mango tree, gasping for air. Before she could reach for the water in her backpack, the floor made its way quickly to her face as she fell to the floor. At that moment in time, the world seemed peaceful and nothing else seemed to matter. Kemi had finally made peace with her death. Her vision blurred as she saw a woman resembling her dead mother rush in her direction. Kemi woke up to the sound of a gentle voice, her daze slowly disappearing as she scanned her surroundings. A kind-faced woman, akin to her mother's face and mannerisms, stared at her with a motherly concern. Then out of the corner of her mouth, the woman cracked a smile. "I hope you are hungry because food is ready." Kemi was confused, but 3 maids came to garnish the dining table with assorted continental dishes before she could ask any questions. "Come on, girl, it's time to eat," the woman declared in a soft voice. It turned out a kind woman saw Kemi fall and immediately ran to her rescue. She was popularly called Mama Gold, as she was one of the biggest gold vendors in all of Lagos. She took Kemi in as her child and provided for her just like Uncle Tunde once did. All of Mama Gold's children were abroad, so Kemi was spoiled like an only child. 5 years passed, and Kemi was now an integral part of Mama Gold's business. It turned out Mama Gold only used her gold business as a front. Her real business was the pimping of young women younger than the age of 19 out to rich men in Lagos. Kemi was also one of those girls. However, she acted more like a special escort, since she was older than the other girls that Mama Gold typically gave out to her wealthy customers. Over the years, Kemi had several abortions and treated several sexually transmitted diseases as frequently as every month. At this point, Kemi was no longer the good child her parents left behind. She was now known as one of the biggest girls in Lagos. Kemi soon became greedy and wanted more. She spoke to one of her wealthy friends about how to make more money than she was already making. The rich friend was popularly called Chief. Chief let out a reverberating laugh before asking her, "Are you sure you are ready to join the big boy, eh?" His voice caused tremors in her chest, but her confidence remained resolute. "Yes," Kemi replied with utter conviction. "Okay, to put it simply, let's just say we take from the rich but don't give it to the poor. Instead, we keep it for ourselves." Kemi became wide-eyed with surprise. "Armed robbery?" she retorted. Chief nodded his head in slow but steady succession. Kemi agreed to join the chief's crew and was ready to join in on the next assignment. On the day of the robbery, Kemi and her crew forced their way into the home they wanted to rob. Everything was going according to plan until Kemi saw something she was unprepared for. Kemi was prepared for everything but this. To be continued. We hope you enjoyed the story you just watched. Please like our videos and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more African fictional tales like this one. Thank you.